Hello, lovely people, and welcome to what will hopefully be my very first video on YouTube. It's very exciting. Since this is my first video, I'm just going to do a very quick little introduction so that you know a little bit about me. My name is Erica. I am a full-time high school English teacher, and I have decided to start a booktube channel. I discovered booktube, okay, so first of all, right now it is October 2020. My little string of pumpkins, so cute. I discovered booktube back in like February, March of this year, and I have been obsessed ever since. I have found tons of YouTubers or booktubers that I really like. I love watching their channels, I love watching their videos. And it has really honestly inspired me to read more, which you would think. I know as an English teacher, don't you read all the time? Honestly, not as much as I would like to. I mean, teaching is a very demanding job, and especially in your first few years when you're sort of figuring things out. For a lot of us in our first few years, like we're not really good at the whole like teacher life balance. So yeah, I just kind of wasn't reading as much. You know, I read a lot in high school. I obviously read lots through college, and then once I started teaching, I just wasn't reading as much for fun. Like I wasn't reading as much for myself. And booktube really sort of inspired me to get back into reading the way that I want to. So here I am, teaching full-time in the middle of a pandemic, which obviously with COVID-19 this year, teaching school in general has been 100% chaos. And yet, here I am. Apparently, despite all of that, I want to make YouTube videos. So we're gonna try it and see how it goes. I do plan on creating a more in-depth introduction video where I really talk about my love for reading and what I know about booktube and why I decided to start a booktube channel and sort of my hopes for this channel. But I didn't really want to do that for my very first video. I kind of wanted to jump right in and just start talking about books. Sorry if the camera keeps shaking. It's my cat. Lily, stop. There she is. Say hi. Okay. All right. So you probably already know based on the title of this video that today I am bringing you an October book haul. I'm going to be going through all of the books that I purchased in the month of October, and spoiler, I have not read a single one yet. All right, I have my stack of books, so let's see if I can do this without spoiling anything. Ta-da! These are all of the books that I got in the month of October. So these are the ones that we're going to be talking about today. Oh, Lily is so close to messing with my tripod. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So if you want to grab your cup of coffee or whatever beverage you prefer. The first book I bought this month was All Adults Here by Emma Straub. Lily! Oh, the joys of having a cat. Okay. This author has written several other books, but she is a new author to me. I have never read any of her work. The main character of this book is a mother named Astrid Strick. And I think one of the main things that this book focuses on is parenthood and the relationships between parents and their adult children. The structure sort of reminds me of the TV show Parenthood, which I have seen twice all the way through. It is one of my favorite TV shows. I love that show. It has like multiple generations and like the relationships between all the parents and the kids. And so it kind of makes me think of that. I don't know if it's going to have the same sort of vibe as Parenthood. I want to say that this book is sad. I feel like that is something that I heard somewhere, that it's actually going to be kind of a sad, kind of a heavy book. The same day that I bought All Adults Here, I also bought a children's book, or a middle grade book, called Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. I have heard good things about it, and I think that the cover is gorgeous. I also think it's interesting because it is a verse novel. So it's a full-length novel, but it's written in verse or poetry. And I actually read another verse novel this summer called Clap When You Land, and I really, really liked that one. I actually listened to the audiobook, which I think is really cool for verse novels, especially if they're read by the author of the book. So even though this is a middle grade, it is definitely more of a contemporary. It follows the story of Jude, who was born in Syria, and of course, as the conflict continues in Syria, she and her mother have to leave, and they actually end up coming to the United States and living in Cincinnati. However, her father and her brother have to stay back in Syria. I have a feeling that this is going to be a really important book. I think that it's going to focus a lot on, obviously, the distance between her and her family that is back in Syria, but also her having to come to terms with now being in the United States and what that experience may mean for her. Okay, the next one I have heard a ton about on YouTube. I feel like I'm so behind, even though this book came out in 2015. That was 5 years ago. So I feel like I'm like behind and I'm needing to get caught up, and that is part of why I like the idea of starting this YouTube channel, so that I can kind of keep up with what everybody else is reading and get caught up a little bit on things that I haven't read in the past several years. So the next book I got this month was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, or Victoria Schwab. I have heard so much about this book and its series. So this is the first book in the Darker Shade of Magic series, and it is a fantasy novel, a fantasy series. I've heard very, very good things. I haven't actually read a lot of fantasy recently. Usually when I do pick up a book to read for fun, I usually gravitate towards contemporary, but I have been really inspired by a lot of booktubers who talk a lot about like the fantasy and science fiction genres. So I've heard really, really good things about this one. I am definitely looking forward to it. This next one is another one that I have heard so much about in the past couple of years. It came out in 2017. I've heard it talked about on BookTube. I've heard about it talked on Teachergram. I am ready to jump on this train, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know if they've written anything else, but so this will be a new author again for me. But I have heard so much about this book and how good it is. This book is obviously about Evelyn Hugo, and it's sort of like a fictional biography of her life, and she connects with a magazine reporter to sort of share her life story and have that reporter write her life story. I think it'll be a good one. I'm really nervous because so many of the books that I'm talking about I'm really excited for, and I'm really hoping that they actually like live up to my expectations. I hope that my expectations aren't too high. Next is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This is a book, once again, I have not read. However, I have read one Agatha Christie book, and that was Murder on the Orient Express, which I read in the 8th grade. Thank you, Mr. Reed. I should probably reread Murder on the Orient Express as well since I read it so long ago, but the reason I was interested in picking this one up is because I have heard so much about it recently. I've heard a couple of booktubers talking about it, but I also know that there are several teachers that I follow on Teachergram who actually teach this to their high school classes, and I thought that that was really interesting, so I'm looking forward to reading this, knowing that it is something that is taught in a lot of high school classrooms. So apparently for this one, there are 10 strangers who are lured to this weird, mysterious island. Somehow, someone on the island knows about all these bad things that apparently these people have done, and then one by one, they are all killed off until there were none. It's definitely like a thriller murder mystery, and I think that like each person's death is going to be its own little mystery, and you're trying to figure out like who's behind it all. So I think it sounds good. I think it sounds interesting. I think this will be a good one. This next one I bought very recently and I'm very excited for it. Honestly, I had no idea that this was a book. The next one is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. So this book, I'm sure as many of you know, is also a movie starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. And of course I've seen the movie. I saw it a long time ago. I liked it. I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm excited to read this and then go back and watch the movie and sort of compare. But I did not know that this was a book, and apparently there's also a prequel to this one. So I have not read either of them. I've not read anything by this author, but I thought that this was a perfect book to pick up for like Halloween time, especially since I saw a few other people on YouTube talking about it. All right, this is another one that I feel really behind on because this one came out a few years ago. It's gotten really popular. A lot of people have said that it's really, really good, and that is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This book is actually the first in a trilogy. It is a YA science fiction dystopian novel. I actually have read a couple of books by Neal Shusterman. Once I started looking at the other books that he had written, I realized that there were a couple of books of his that I got really into when I was in like middle school. One of them was called Unwind and the other is called Everlost. Both of those were really good. Were kind of eerie, kind of creepy, and so it doesn't surprise me that he is the creator of this world, because in this world, apparently this is like a futuristic society where they have essentially beaten death. And I don't know if that's because of like medical advances, but they're at a point where no one dies. No one dies of natural causes. The consequence of beating death and having no one die is now there are issues with population control, and the Scythe are the people who I guess are tasked with deciding who gets to live and who gets to die. I'm assuming at that point the people who are chosen to die are somehow executed. I'm thinking it's going to be a little dark, but I've also heard that there's a romance, so I'm definitely thinking that this is like Hunger Games-esque. Lily is meowing. Can you hear her meowing? Hopefully I like the first one and will then also want to continue with the series. The last book in this haul is one that I don't actually have yet. I have ordered it through my local bookstore and I'm waiting for it to come in, but it is called The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It takes place in sort of this magical world where our main character works for an agency that oversees magical orphans. He is tasked with going to this island and overseeing a particular group of orphans that are deemed quite dangerous. That's really all I know about it, but it does sound good. It's actually one that I'm going to be reading with a book club in the coming month, and so we'll kind of get to read it together and chat about it. So I'm looking forward to that. And that is it. These are the books that I got in the month of October. I'm realizing that I have some very different genres going on here, but I am excited for each and every one of them. To sort of wrap up this October haul, I thought that I would also share with you a couple of movies that I have purchased recently. I was at Target the other day and these were set up near the checkout and I saw them and just bought them on impulse because they were two movies that I love, but that I did not actually own on DVD, so I decided to buy them. I do not regret my choices. These two movies are Hocus Pocus and The Nightmare Before Christmas. Perfect for Halloween. Obviously, that's why they were up front at the checkout, and I fell right into their trap. I 100% just bought these because I saw them on the way out of the store. If you have not seen either of these movies, turn this off and go watch these movies. You can come back and see me later. Go. So that is it for my first haul, my first video here on BookTube. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am very much looking forward to reading these books and being able to share my thoughts with you. Again, my name is Erica and my channel here is called Reading with Zest. My goal is to post videos on Mondays and Wednesdays. We'll see if that's something I can do. You can also feel free to follow me on Instagram at Reading with Zest. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you have read any of the books that I have mentioned here in today's haul, let me know what you think down in the comments. I love knowing what people think about books. Of course, I am entirely new to YouTube, so if you have any suggestions or any pieces of advice, I would really appreciate it. Lily? Ugh. This is why she got put in the other room, because she will knock over my freaking tripod. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. I'm so excited. Okay, I have my notes. I thought I had notes. Why is this so off-center? Sorry, I'm gonna change the camera a little bit, I think. Is that better? I feel like that's better. Okay. All right, I've got my, all right. All right. So if you want to grab your cup of coffee or whatever, that was good. All right, I think that's it. It'll be what it is.